Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today we're looking into some cases that are, well, truly bizarre, really inexplicable.
Yeah, forget straightforward puzzles.
Exactly. These are the ones that have stumped investigators for years, often leaving, way more questions than answers.
We've pulled together insights from quite a few sources, and our goal today is really to unpack some of the most cryptic, unsettling details of these unsolved enigmas for you.
You might find yourself scratching your head a bit.
Or maybe even coming up with your own theories, because these cases, they really do pull you down a rabbit hole.
Okay, so our first mystery, it starts in Tokyo, Japan, December 30th, 2000. It's about the Miyazawa family, Mikio, Yasuko, and their kids, Nina, who is 8, and Rei, just 6 years old.
Right. They lived in Setagaya, an area that was actually sort of marked for redevelopment, so the family was planning to move soon anyway.
And what happened was just unthinkable.
And the really chilling part here isn't just the awful brutality of it all, it's what the killer did after the murders.
Yeah, that part is deeply strange.
It suggests this profound psychological disconnect, like the violence was somehow separate from any need to escape quickly.
That kind of composure is startling.
Yeah.
So let's look at their last known hours. The family was seen shopping around 6 p.m.
All right.
Yasuko called her mother, who lived next door, about 7 p.m. Nina actually visited her grandmother, watched a show until about 9:38 p.m.
Okay.
And then Mikio's computer got an email at 10:45 p.m. That's the latest we know. They were definitely alive sometime after that. Well, the killer got in.
Through a second-floor bathroom window, right? Cut the screen.
Yeah, with a sashimi knife. The entry seems calculated, planned almost.
But then the chaos that followed seems very different.
Right. First, he strangled 6-year-old Rei in his bunk bed. Miki was downstairs doing paperwork. He must have heard something.
Right.
Went upstairs and was attacked at the top of the stairs with that sashimi knife.
Yeah.
Fell all the way down.
And the knife actually broke during that struggle.
It did. Which forced the killer to go down to the kitchen to find another weapon, another blade.
And meanwhile, Yasuko and Nina, they were on the third floor, probably terrified, maybe lightly awake.
A first aid box was found, suggesting they were tending to wounds.
Right. They likely pulled up the ladder, tried to hide. But the phone lines, they've been unplugged.
Yeah. And the killer came back up. The way Yasuko and Nina were attacked, repeatedly stabbed and slashed, even after death.
It does sadly suggest the attacker had a particular issue with women. A real rage.
The intruder was injured too, though. His blood was found on some bandages left at the scene.
But instead of running,
He stayed, made himself at home, ate melon, drank barley tea, ate ice cream cups, just tossed the wrappers.
it's staggering. The complete disregard for, well, anything. He logged onto Mikio's computer. This was at 1:18 a.m.
Browsed the internet, even tried to book theater tickets.
Yeah, it's bizarre. He went through documents, spread out credit cards, licenses, money.
Threw some things in the bathtub, maybe some kind of symbolic gesture.
Possibly. Used the toilet, didn't flush. He even apparently took a nap on the living room couch.
It's almost unbelievable, and he was still there the next morning. Used the computer again at 10:05 a.m., left fingerprints on the mouse.
Then finally, before leaving, he rips out the computer's power cable. And the only thing he takes is an old sweatshirt.
So much evidence left behind.
A huge amount. His clothes, neatly folded, Korean-sized sneakers, a down jacket, hat, handkerchief, fanny pack, gloves, scarf.
From that, they estimated his height, about 5'7".
And the DNA was interesting. Showed he was half Southern European, half East Asian. Even identified his cologne Drakkar Noir, which was apparently popular with skateboarders at the time.
But the most bizarre detail, for me anyway, is the sand.
Right, the sand in the fanny pack.
Trace amounts, originating from Edwards Air Force Base in California, in the U.S.
It's a baffling connection, Edwards AFB, but no military match for his DNA or fingerprints was ever found.
And foreign nationals get fingerprinted entering Japan.
Right.
But still no match.
Exactly. It doesn't quite add up. And then there's this other lead, maybe.
The injured man.
Yeah. December 31st, just 6 hours after the bodies were found.
Yeah.
A man turns up at Toba Nichols Station. It's about 75 miles away.
Okay.
He's treated for a really deep cut on his hand, bone visible. But he leaves without giving his name, never seen again. Could it be him? Maybe.
It's tantalizing. But despite all of this DNA, fingerprints, the clothes, the sand, the potential citing the case is still unsolved.
Which is shocking in Japan, where the homicide clearance rate is incredibly high, like 96%.
Makes this case even more of an anomaly. Okay, let's shift gears. Our next case takes us to July 1996. the final, very strange days of Blair Adams. He was a Canadian man found dead in Tennessee, USA.
And his movements just before his death are, well, they're a real puzzle.
Yeah, puzzling is one word for it.
Adams's behavior, it seems so desperate, erratic. He's carrying all this wealth but not spending it. It feels less like paranoia and more like he was maybe caught up in something prearranged, something fatal he couldn't logically escape.
That's the core mystery, isn't it? So Blair Adams, 31, from Surrey, British Columbia. On July 7th, 1996, he starts by withdrawing all the savings, empties his safety deposit box, cash, jewelry, gold, platinum, everything.
A significant amount of assets.
Huge. He first tries to get into the U.S. on a ferry to Seattle. Denied. Too much cash, plus he had a record assault, some drug offenses.
Okay.
2 days later, July 9th, he's caught trying to cross on foot. At the Pacific Highway crossing, he's covered in scratches, arms, and legs. Matched the description of a car thief's stolen car found nearby.
But they let him go.
Yeah, denied involvement, not enough evidence. So they released him, and he's still apparently walking away from the U.S. border at this point.
His persistence, even after being turned away multiple times, it really suggests he was on some kind of desperate mission.
Definitely desperate. It seems like logic went out the window. The very next day, July 10th, he rents a Nissan Altima. And this time, he successfully crosses into the U.S.
Okay, so he's finally in.
Goes straight to Seattle Airport, buys a ticket to Frankfurt, Germany. He apparently had an ex-girlfriend there, but hadn't contacted her.
Strange destination.
Stranger still, he doesn't get on the flight, changes it, gets a one-way ticket to Washington, D.C. instead.
That sudden change? Either his goal shifted or maybe Frankfurt was just a red herring?
Could be. He arrives in D.C. early morning, rents another car, a Toyota Camry. Then, driving on U.S. Route 250, he actually backs into another car. The other driver said he seemed nice, but really, really rushed.
In a hurry.
And somehow, that evening, he ends up all the way in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's 500 miles from D.C., and that's where his journey tragically ends.
That's an incredibly long way to go if you're just in a hurry. Doesn't make sense.
Right. So his first interaction in Knoxville we know about is at a gas station. He flags down Gerald Sapp, an interstate repair driver. Adams is saying his key won't work in the Camry.
Okay.
Sapp looks and immediately sees Adams is trying to use the key for the Nissan Altima, the car he rented in Seattle.
Oh.
Sapp tries to tell him, but Adams gets agitated, insists it's the right key. Sapp described him as seeming, well, nuts. Eventually, Sapp tows the car to a repair shop, drops Adams off at a nearby Fairfield Inn.
That kind of detachment, the confusion about the key. It's chilling,
Yeah.
especially knowing what happens next.
It really is. At the hotel, security footage shows Adams just lingering in the lobby for about 40 minutes.
Just hanging around.
Yeah. Then he goes to the desk, pays for a room with a $100 bill, but before the clerk can even give him his change, he just walks back out across the lobby and leaves. Never went up to the room.
It's like he was maybe trying to establish that he was there, create an alibi, but had no plan to actually stay.
Possibly. What happened between leaving the hotel lobby and the next morning is a complete blank. At 7:30 a.m., Blair Adams' body is found.
Where?
In a parking lot of a hotel that was under construction just outside Knoxville. His pants, socks, shoes were off, scattered around. His shirt was open.
Okay.
And all around him, that money. About $4,000 worth in German, Canadian, and U.S. currency, just strewn about.
And his other valuables.
In bags nearby, a duffel bag with maps, travel receipts, a smaller bag with gold bars, platinum coins, jewelry, keys, sunglasses.
That's absolutely crucial. Whoever killed him took nothing. No robbery.
Exactly. It strongly suggests the motive was something else entirely. His body showed signs of a struggle. Lots of cuts, deep slice marks. Many looked like defensive wounds.
So he fought back.
Seems like it. He had a severe blow to the abdomen that ruptured his stomach, and a wound on his forehead, maybe from a crowbar or a club. There was suspicion of post-mortem sexual assault, but no conclusive DNA evidence for that was found.
Any evidence from the attacker?
Just one thing. A single strand of long hair clutched in his hand. It didn't match anyone on record.
And his family, did they notice anything beforehand?
Yes, his mother said he was acting strangely before he even tried to cross the border. Said things like, "Someone's been spreading rumors about me." He told friends he thought someone was trying to kill him.
Paranoia? Or was he really in danger?
Well, importantly, he'd been clean and sober for over 2 years, so it likely wasn't substance-induced paranoia. It sounds like he genuinely believed he was being targeted.
So many loose ends. Who was after him? Why Knoxville? Why leave the money?
The authorities admit it, they just don't know what happened. Okay, our next case. This one is filled with some really eerie clues. It's the disappearance of Diane Louise Walker from Odessa, Florida, back in April 1998.
Okay.
Diane was 40, a stay-at-home mom. She'd been diagnosed bipolar back in the 80s, but wasn't always consistent with her medication. She'd had a tough time, lost custody of her kids in 88, divorced in 91, fell into heavy drinking and substance use, had some arrests, been committed to mental health facilities a few times.
But things were looking up by 98.
Yeah, by 1998, her life seemed to be improving. She was living with her sister. But then, April 10th, she's seen leaving her sister's place on Chesapeake Drive around 11 a.m. She didn't have her medication with her.
Okay. Last sighting.
Well, the next day, a bartender at the Hayloft Tavern apparently cut her off because she was, quote, walking in circles, and the final confirmed sighting was her walking north on US 19 near New York Avenue in Hudson, Florida. After that, she vanished.
The vulnerability is clear, especially if she was off her medication. Her mother mentioned she had a habit of trusting strangers, too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Which makes what happened next even more chilling.
The phone call.
Yeah. Just 2 days after she disappeared, April 13th, Diane's mother checks her messages. 3 missed calls. 1 left a voicemail.
And it was Diane's voice.
Yes, saying, help, help, let me out. Then sounds of scuffling. Then Diane says, hey, give me that. And the call cuts off.
Oh, God. That's terrifying.
The caller ID just read Starlight. Calling back did nothing, unanswered.
That call and the caller ID, it immediately screams abduction, something sinister, not just someone wandering off.
And then 2 days after that, April 15th, a truly gruesome discovery. Right there on US 19, near New York Avenue, the same area she was last seen walking. The severed tip of a human finger, red painted nail. Analysis confirmed it. The tip of Diane's middle right finger.
Horrifying. Confirmed foul play right there.
Yeah.
Mutilation. Terror.
A second finger was apparently reported found too, but police never located it. This discovery basically confirmed the horror implied in that phone call.
And the bizarre findings didn't stop there, did they?
No. About 2 weeks after the finger was found, a bag containing Diane's clothes, neatly folded, turned up inside an outdoor freezer at a convenience store back in Odessa.
Folded in a freezer.
It's weirdly deliberate.
It gets weirder. 2 years later, in 2000, a Florida newspaper runs a story on Diane's vanishing. The very next day, another bag is found.
Where?
At a Circle K convenience store in Pasco County. Found by Diane's brother's girlfriend, incredibly. It was a clear plastic bag with Diane written on it in black marker.
What was inside?
Black eyeliner, taboo perfume, bright pink lipstick, generic toothpaste. Things her mother confirmed Diane would own and use. It's like a message. Placing these items, especially marking the bag, feels like the perpetrator, communicating in this really perverse, terrifying way, taunting the family.
Diane's mother, even after all this, still held out hope. She was quoted saying, I'm hoping that they haven't killed her yet. Diane would be 61 today. She has some distinctive tattoos, an abdominal scar. But the case remains unsolved. Foul play is obviously strongly suspected.
Just chilling.
Okay, for our final deep dive tonight, we're heading to Circleville, Ohio, a small town that became the center of this really strange, persistent campaign of anonymous harassment, starting way back in 1976.
Ah, the Circleville letter writer. This one is a classic.
It really is. It started with Mary Gillespie. She was a local school bus driver. She got an anonymous letter, postmarked Columbus, Ohio, unsigned.
What does it say?
Basically accused her of having an affair with the school superintendent. Said, I know where you live. This is no joke. Mary, she initially just ignored it.
The Circleville case, it starts personal, but it spirals out fast, doesn't it? Becomes this sort of psychological terror campaign affecting the whole community. The big question isn't just who wrote them, but was it one person? Or was it something more coordinated?
Good question. Because about a week later, Mary gets another letter. Similar tone. She didn't tell anyone until her husband, Ron Gillespie, also started getting letters.
Threatening him.
Yeah, threatening his life if he didn't put a stop to Mary's supposed affair. Mary denied it, told Ron she was faithful. Ron, like Mary, initially tried to ignore them too.
These threats, they seem designed to just sow chaos and distrust within the family. Classic manipulation.
Then Ron gets a second letter. Much more aggressive. Something like, you've had 2 weeks and done nothing. I'm going to broadcast it on posters, signs, billboards until the truth comes out.
Okay, now they're scared.
Right. They finally confided in Ron's sister, her husband Paul Freshour, and Paul's sister. Mary apparently had a suspect in mind. The group decided to write letters back, demanding it stop.
And did it?
For a little while, it seemed like it did. The letters stopped coming.
Okay, but then...
Then, August 19th, 1977, Ron gets a phone call. We don't know who called or what was said, but Ron got incredibly angry.
Right.
Rushed out of the house, told his kids he was going to confront the letter writer, saying the person was watching our house right now. He grabbed his pistol, jumped in his truck, sped off. Minutes later, Ron was found dead. His truck had crashed into a tree. But the strangest part, he had fired his gun. One shot, fired from inside the car before the crash.
Fired a shot. At what? Or who?
Yeah.
That is incredibly bizarre. Suggests confrontation or some immediate threat right there.
Exactly. No one knows who or what he was shooting at. The official ruling, though, an accident. The sheriff said Ron had been drinking, claimed his blood alcohol was 1.5 times the legal limit.
But the family disputed that.
Strongly. Said he rarely drank, definitely hadn't that day. And then things got even stranger. Anonymous letters started appearing all over Circleville, accusing the sheriff himself of a cover-up in Ron's death.
Okay, now that really twists things. If the writer wanted Ron dead, what caused the crash, why accuse the sheriff of covering it up? Unless maybe there was more than one writer. Or something deeper going on.
It certainly gets darker. After Ron died, Mary kept getting letters. Eventually, her resolve just broke. She admitted she had been having an affair with the superintendent, but she claimed it only started after the letters began. She kept her job driving the bus, maybe hoping the confession would make it all stop.
But it didn't stop, did it?
No. In fact, it escalated. Dangerously. Someone started putting up threatening signs along Mary's bus route.
Just signs.
At first. Then one day, Mary got angry, tried to pull one of the signs down, and it was booby-trapped.
Booby-trapped? How?
A pistol hidden inside a box attached to the sign. It was wired to the trigger, designed to shoot her when she pulled the sign down.
My God. That's attempted murder.
Luckily, the angle was off or something malfunctioned. It didn't fire. But yeah, a clear escalation.
So the gun. Did they trace it?
They did. The serial number was partially filed off, but they managed to trace it back to Mary's brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, the one who had recently split from Ron's sister.
Paul Freshour, the one they confided in earlier.
The very same. Paul claimed the gun had been stolen from him months before. He had an alibi for the time the trap was likely set. But despite that, he was convicted, sentenced to 7 to 25 years.
So everyone thought, okay, case closed. They caught the writer.
That was the assumption. But the letters didn't stop. In fact, they seemed to increase. More letters sent to more mailboxes all across Ohio, still postmarked Columbus.
But Paul was in prison.
Exactly. In solitary confinement in Lima, Ohio for much of the time, it seemed impossible for him to be sending them. He even started receiving taunting letters himself in prison.
That's crucial. He couldn't have been sending them from solitary.
Right. He was actually denied parole after 7 years, specifically because the letters were still ongoing, even though he was locked up. After that parole denial, he got one last, really chilling letter.
What did it say?
Something like, I told you 2 years ago, when we set him up, they stay a setup, don't you listen at all.
We?
Yeah, we set him.
That use of we is deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
It implies, what, more than one person? Someone with influence or power protecting the real writer, a group.
It definitely suggests something more complex than just Paul acting alone. And there was another piece of evidence overlooked at his trial.
What was that?
Another bus driver saw a man standing near where that booby-trap sign was found about 20 minutes before Mary discovered it. The man was near a yellow El Camino car. When the bus approached, he hid his face.
Did the description match Paul?
No, it didn't match Paul Freshour at all. But that lead apparently was never really followed up.
Yeah.
Eventually, the letters just stopped. Paul Freshour was finally granted parole after serving 10 years. He maintained his innocence right up until his death in 2012.
And the story wasn't quite over even then, right? The TV show.
Right. In 1993, the show Unsolved Mysteries planned to feature the case. Before the episode aired, they received a postcard.
Threatening them.
Yep. Said something like, forget Circleville, Ohio. If you come to Ohio, your El Sickos will pay. Signed, the Circleville writer.
Chilling. Did the show air?
It did, despite the threat. But unfortunately, no solid new leads came from it. To this day, nobody knows for sure who the Circleville letter writer really was.
It just remains this baffling, lingering mystery.
So from that brutal killer in Tokyo who just stayed, to Blair Adams's incredibly strange, paranoid final journey, Diane Walker's terrifying phone call and that severed finger, and then this anonymous writer haunting an entire town, even from behind bars. These cases, they really don't have easy answers.
Not at all. They really challenge how we think about motive, about evidence, even the nature of crime itself sometimes. They leave you with this profound sense of the unknown, a
Right.
reminder that some truths just stay hidden.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating, maybe, is wondering if there is some hidden thread connecting cases like these, some single overlooked detail, or is it the sheer incomprehensibility itself that's the real common theme in these kinds of deep dives into the cryptic?
That's a great question to ponder. We hope you found these stories as intriguing and thought-provoking as we have. Keep that curiosity alive.
Definitely.
We'll be back soon with another stack of sources to unpack for you. Until then, stay curious.